And welcome to FPN's Lethal Mullet Podcast. Here, we're just about to kick into episode number 287 here, live from Quinlan's Cantina and the Gold Coast of Australia. Here we go.
All right, lights, camera, action. Now, where's the mullet? Where is he? Is he coming in by chopper again?
And now, live from Quinlan's Cantina in the Gold Coast of Australia, it's time again for your dose of action cinema history from the 80s, 90s, and beyond with the Lethal Mullet Podcast. Oh, g'day, man. How you going?
And cut. Thank you, audience. Thank you very much. Here is Adam O'Brien, the Lethal Mullet here at, of course, Quinlan's Cantina, the Gold Coast of Australia here on Saturday morning. It's 10 a.m. and we are enjoying a nice chilly morning. It is about, feels like 5 degrees, but it's probably 12. I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit, but you can go and search that on Google for yourselves. But today we're going to have quite a few dear friends from FPN. Of course, we're going to have Lacee, Kevin, and Kyle very, very soon here to chat Firewalker, one of the greats of Chuck Norris, stretching his legs in the acting world to actually do a comedy with Gossett Jr. and a number of others. And joining us here today, first up, is, of course, somebody who's had a very long flight all the way to Santa Barbara in California, co-founder of the show, and, of course, head and host, of course, along with Lee Phillingslist of Blood of Kings, a Highlander podcast, and many other fantastic shows on the network. The one, the only, Kevin the Red-Headed Reitzel. Pal, how are you?
G'day, mate. How you doing?
I'm good.
Sorry, I just came from Australia and I literally landed this morning. Had to watch out for those poison mushrooms. She'll get you. Watch out. And to answer your question, it is 63 degrees where you are right now, sir. So, yeah, if you're talking U.S. And I've been up for like over 24 hours because of the flight and when I left. So there you go.
It is crazy. Now, I've got to ask, when you were over here, did you enjoy some of the flavors of our food out here? Maybe Vegemite?
No, I gave up on that years ago, dude. You know I did. Come on. Vegemite's nasty. Stop. But I cannot get enough of the Solo soda. That stuff is just I could eat that all day and night. Love Solo. I'm a Solo man.
Awesome. Now, of course, we need another co-founder here if we're going to be doing this, of course, episode here and a crossover, because they have covered this before, and even I was on that episode with these fine, amazing people. And, of course, all the way from the other side of the United States, the one, the only Kyle Wagner. Buddy, how are you?
I'm doing well, but I'm just curious how much deja vu Kevin is having after all of his time travel in the last 24 hours.
I'm having trouble keeping track of it. I'll be honest with you, bro.
Yeah.
It's good to be back, though. It really is.
Well, it's great to be back on the mullet. I was just with Adam. We did a great episode talking about Willow, which was a lot of fun. A little Mad Mardigan is always good in topic. But this is actually a very special episode of the Lethal Mullet because it is crossing over with an event that is happening on the Fandom Podcast Network. Because on one of our favorite shows on the network, Couch Potato Theater, this summer, we are doing a Canon Films retrospective. You know, Canon Films, nothing maybe represents 80s cinema in a way like the Canon Films. And the same week this episode of Lethal Mullet is coming out, which we're recording this on Friday, July 11th. Next week, both CPT Firewalker and Lethal Mullet Firewalker will be dropping, and you will get both the Fandom Podcast Network Couch Potato Theater takes on Firewalker, and of course, this episode of Lethal Mullet, and of course, the unique and true mullet style.
Excellent, excellent. Of course, that is a great thing to see that we're going to get more love and appreciation for a film company that, you know, I think really gave us a lot in the 80s, and we still, to this day, I mean, just look what Kevin's putting up now. These are great ones, you know, the Go-Go Boys, Electric Boogaloo, the behind the scenes of these amazing things. One by, of course, the boys themselves that produced it, and by the people that made the things behind the scenes, Electric Boogaloo as well. Fantastic. They're great documentaries, aren't they, Kev?
Well, I actually haven't watched the Go-Go Boys, but our next guest has or will, because she turned me on to that. But I have seen this Electric Boogaloo, totally worth it, and I can't wait to dive into this one.
Awesome, and of course, from the same side of the United States, the amazing Lacee, who is here to join us for a movie that she chose, which is without a doubt one of the greats of canon films. Lacee, how are we?
I'm well. I did the math. I looked it up, and it says that 5 degrees to somewhere between 5 and 12 degrees down there is 41 to 53 in the U.S. 53 degrees. That's chilly. That's like sweater. That's not just sweater weather. That's coat weather. Goodness gracious.
It's brisk. I tell you what, we're all wearing our Ugg boots, as we say. Actually, Kevin might know about Ugg boots. We used to have those, didn't we?
Yep.
Oh, yeah. I saw an Ugg boot store at the Chadston Mall in Melbourne just 2 days ago, and I was just like, sigh.
I have Ugg boots.
I'm sorry. I have to chime in here. We're talking 50 to 60 degrees Fahrenheit. You all are weak if you're saying that's cold.
Okay, Alaska, we get it. Whatever.
Oh, crazy. So, first of all, to all our listeners out there tonight, big thank you for joining us here as well. This is, again, you listening to us is giving air to these amazing films that we all look at, of course. Chuck Norris, Charlie Bronson, all those great films they did. Obviously, Dudikoff, Steve James, one of my favorites. And I've got a little bit of info on something that, unfortunately, we found out through Steve Lambert's book, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But more than anything, let's let you know, first of all, we can catch this show and many others like it with the contacts. Cue contacts.
The number you have dialed has been changed. The new number is...
G'day, man. How you going? Follow the Lethal Mullet here on Fandom Podcast Network's master channel at fpnet.podbean.com or subscribe on the Podbean app, where you can find all the shows. Blood of Kings, a Highlander podcast. Culture Clash, a weekly look at pop culture. You look at Making Treks, a Star Trek fan podcast. You can also check out the Mullet Guild, a look at the Dune universe from me, the Lethal Mullet. You can also check out this show and all the others like What a Piece of Junk, a Star Wars podcast, Type 40, a Doctor Who podcast, Good Evening, an Alfred Hitchcock podcast, and much, much more. All on FPN. You can follow on Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and all podcatchers. Make sure you follow me, the Lethal Mullet, at The Lethal Mullet on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram.
All righty, folks. Now, with that, we're into the episode here. First of all, we'll talk about a little bit what we've been covering recently. We obviously, as Kyle's mentioned, we did Willow. We've also been looking at some older films and some ones that are a little bit more obscure, like Virtuosity. So we're going to be looking at that. But what I want you, the listener out there today, to do is to think back in the 1990s in particular, because we covered a lot of 80s here, but we're going to be doing over the next 2 to 3 months a lot of 90s fare, looking at 21st century pictures, some of their really straight-to-video stuff that was kind of sketchy, but I tell you what, some of it was fun. Action movies, sci-fi, all that sort of stuff. But here, before we get into the news, I want to get the thoughts on, of course, our amazing cast of help here today, what they think is some of the great ones from the 1990s that haven't been covered by any podcast that is back now. One I will say that I'm going to be covering that hasn't been done before in a long, long time is one by, of course, Mark Hamill, and that is The Guyver. We're going to be doing that here very, very soon, which is a classic film. Now, Kevin, let us know a movie that you haven't seen done yet.
It's funny you say Mark Hamill, because on Time Warp 1990 that we're currently doing on the Fandom Podcast Network, we're going to be covering this film with Mark Hamill and Michael Dudikoff called Midnight Ride. So there you go.
Beautiful.
Maybe we'll have to cover that one. So yeah. Did you cover Double Team yet? Because I just recently saw that last year and I love that movie.
I covered Double Team back in about 2020. It was a funny situation. You should mention that. I had a friend of mine that told me, have you seen Double Team on DVD anywhere? I said, no, I don't think it came out here in Australia. And a Choi Hark film is usually straight to DVD. It's at least coverage. But then I found a special edition VHS of Double Team. So, I mean, I've found both a Blu-ray and a DVD since. But I tell you what, that is one funny damn film, I've got to say. You've enjoyed that one for years, haven't you?
Yeah.
That's a great one. Now, Kyle, what about you? What's a film from the 90s that you'd like to see given some air?
It's a film that I think several years ago, maybe even 10, 15 years ago, really got a lot of air when podcasting first came out. But I haven't seen anybody do anything with it in a long time. And I think it's one of my favorite action films of the 90s. And that's Desperado. I have not seen anybody.
Oh, good choice.
Celebrating its 30th anniversary this year. Came out in 1995, I remember. Right?
I mean, come on. It brought us Selma. It brought us Selma. What more can you say? But just a great film, incredible action, a great Antonio Banderas performance, Tarantino being in it, obviously Selma Hayek. But it just seems like those movies, that group, the El Mariachi films, have kind of got a little lost in the ether. People know about them, but they don't talk about them that much anymore. I think that would be a movie I'd love to see some revisited soon.
Oh, 100%. Now, of course, Lacey, you know movies better than anyone here, of course. You've got one of the most variety of collections. We can see it just behind you. You've got a video shop. Let's put it that way. It's great. But is there a 90s movie in particular, whether it's a cult film, whether it's a B grade, that just jumps out and you can say, we need to let people know about it?
How about Double Dragon?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Right? We got a little bit of Roscoe, Robert Patrick, a little bit of Scott Wolf. So you have a nice, because it was panned initially, like it was not received well. I don't know how much money it made, but it wasn't much. But I think that the cult crew has found it, and I think that it is a beloved piece of quasi martial art films.
Early Mark
might kind of go up there with like surf ninjas and things like that.
Yeah, was it Scott Wolf? Scott Wolf in it too. Yeah. And the T-1000. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's 94. So I think that's solidly into the 90s. Scott Wolf had just been enjoying some his beginning of his career, and I think that this is one of those hiatus movies that kind of made him go, TV's where it's at for me. But yeah, I love this movie. I think it's fun. I think it's it's 50% Surf Ninjas and 50% Last Dragon.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love that movie. I'm glad you brought that up. I own that one. Yeah, good one.
For me, I always thought the design of that looked like Super Mario Brothers live action for some reason. I don't know why. Just the streets and everything, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Nope, you are not wrong.
All right, folks, with that, we're going to get into, of course, the news here on the Lethal Mullet Podcast.
Now it's time for the latest action news from the cinema and martial arts movies and more, all here on the Lethal Mullet Podcast.
All right, folks, we have some pretty big news, and I will say this is news that even for me was not a shock. I knew it was happening. Right now, in, of course, the European states, I would say, this stage, it is in different states because they've got different productions going of this. This is, of course, Dune. Part 3 is officially the title of Dune Messiah. And, of course, Denis Villeneuve is hot at the helm of this one. And Jason Momoa has returned to play, of course, Duncan Idaho, or Hate, as it is in the book. This is, of course, a clone of the character. We may as well say it's been out for 32 years or so. But what's interesting about this one is that they're bringing the elements of both Dune Messiah and Children of Dune into the one story. Now, how much of the third book, that is Children of Dune, is going to be part of it, we're not sure as yet. But I want to get your thoughts on it. We'll start with Lacey. So, Lacey, what do you think about a third chapters of the Dune universe in live action?
I think the casting of this was really fantastic. I love Chalamet. I love Isaac. I love Rebecca Ferguson. Momoa and Bautista. I mean, like everyone in this is amazing. And in the second one, I loved adding Austin. Yeah.
Butler. Yeah.
Elvis. Austin Butler. They added, Austin Butler and a couple other people, and I think that this is going to be an interesting, finish. And I love Zendaya from the beginning. She's awesome. So yeah, I'm excited. I wasn't a fan of the original movie or the miniseries. Legit, the only reason I went to see this was because of Jason. A friend of mine is his like personal trainer guy. So I'm always kind of a support your friends kind of thing. And so I watch everything he's in. I think he's hilarious. I think he's fantastic. And I'll watch anything that he comes in the future. So, yeah.
Awesome. Now, Kyle, I've got to ask you, because you are a Dune fan also. Obviously, the universe well, obviously the original versions and stuff like that. Now, this is Denis's final film in the series. We know that they're going on after that in some capacity. What do you think Denis Villeneuve's biggest strengths have been in these last two? What is it, the open expanse and the big operatic themes of Dune? Or is it just his work as a director?
It's a little bit of both. First of all, both Dune films visually are spectacular. He captures the feel and the world of Dune beautifully. I think the other aspect of it is, unlike David Lynch, or even though I do like the Sci-Fi Channel miniseries and thought it was a decent adaptation, Denis is getting the actors to fully embrace the characters. And he's following it is the most traditional version of the Book of Dune that has been made. And it's because he has such respect for it. And I just think Denis is the kind of filmmaker that that has to do Dune. You have to have somebody who has a great visual eye, but also understands the epicness of what Dune is, with also the understanding, and I know we've talked about this a lot, Adam, is that as popular as Dune is, it's not at that level of a Star Wars or some of the more popular science fiction franchises that are out there. Not that it's not known, it's just Dune has its own unique following. And most people are either, it's a love-hate relationship. They either love it or they just can't get into it. And I think Denis has done a very good job with the Dune films of making it at least palatable for people who aren't as familiar with the Dune universe. And I think with this third film, I think it's actually a wise decision that he's incorporating some aspects of Children of Dune into it as well, because I think it'll fix some of the confusion of Dune Messiah. And I know we talked about this the other day off mic. I think it's actually the right marketing decision to call this Dune Part 3 and not Dune Messiah, or they could change it up and even say Dune Part 3 Messiah. But I think it's the right marketing way to go for this.
100%. Now, Kevin, we've had some extra news about Denis Villeneuve. He's now the pick, and it's official. He's the director of the next 007. What do you think about this?
I'm curious for him for this. It's weird that we have the director, not the the person chosen to be the new Bond. I thought it was the other way around. But he's one that can definitely handle a production of that value, and that he'll bring a certain visualistic style that 007 deserves to this project.
Fantastic. Now, one of the biggest pieces of news coming out in the last week is that Michael Bay is returning to the Transformers franchise, and some news reports is that he's there to rescue it. I've got to say, I don't necessarily agree with that. And we've all seen the movies over the last, how long is it now? It's been more than 10 years, more than 15. But the great thing about this is 20. Actually, Kevin's got the pack right here. Look at that.
I just picked this up on Prime Day. Get it? Optimus Prime. And, of course, I had to pick up the 7-movie collection here. As you can see, it's quite extensive with the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 main Transformer films. And you have Bumblebee and the most recent one, Transformer Rise of the Beasts. That's, of course, all the live-action versions right there. So picked it up on Prime for a nice little discount. Some of them come with the digital code, too, which I always like. So, yeah.
It's great, isn't it? And, Lacee, what do you think about Michael Bay returning? He's a great director for these sorts of massive action spectacles.
I love Michael Bay. I actually did a paper in college when I went back to school on why people should be able to embrace loving, action like Michael Bay, Tony Scott, and still be able to love like John Ford and Chaplin and, Truffaut. There's, I love everyone has their own, forte, their own little, things that they're good at. And I think that, he's really good at loud, explosions, crazy fun like quips, and making pulse-pounding flicks that are just fun, big popcorn, showy movies, and that's fun. And I went back to college when I was 35, and I was surrounded by a lot of 18-year-olds who were like, "Oh, like very, very, kind of in the head about film." And it was a little bit depressing because I was like, there are these fantastic directors. I mean, so I love Michael Bay. I think that he's going to do fun things. I don't know about rescuing the franchise. I think that each of the subsequent films after his turn at the wheel had their own positives and negatives. And I think that that's fun. And I would love to see Shia come back. I know that he's had some stuff going on, but I think that he is doing well now. And I think that he's gone through all of his stuff. And I think he's in a place where it could be fun to see him come back. I mean, I'd love to see Witwicky come back and see what he's been doing.
I would like to see Witwicky's parents. They always cracked me up.
Oh my God. So
Kevin
much.
I think Michael Bay's been criticized way too much for it.
Yeah.
I love his style of action, and I will defend him.
Oh, exactly. Now, what's interesting too is that we've got we've got Kyle. You got to.
Well, I wanted to weigh in on this because I'm a little bit of a mixed feelings on this situation because I am a Michael Bay fan. However, I do think Michael Bay has kind of fallen into a trap in his last few movies where he's following his pattern a little bit too much, and maybe he needs to change things up. And the other reason why I'm a little bit not sure about this is because our last two Transformers movies, one directed by Travis Knight, who is currently directing the Masters of the Universe film, which has a hell of a cast in it, and then also Stephen Caple Jr., who directed Transformers Rise of the Beast, which I thought was a very good film. The last two Transformer movies have been really good, and I think really captured more of the essence of Transformers than the last couple of Michael Bay films. And I think the problem with the Bay films was they were getting ridiculously long. They were pushing 3 hours towards the end. So if Bay's coming in with a renewed energy and in a different angle than what he was using before to come at this, I'm all for it. But I think we were headed in a really good direction. And I think the other thing
keep it at 2 hours or less, right, Kyle?
Yeah. Transformers does not need to be a 3 hour film. I'm sorry, it doesn't. But I think the other aspect here that's going on too, and I think it's something that has been a struggle for both the Transformers franchise and the G.I. Joe live action movie franchises. Hasbro is so desperate to intertwine those two things, and they don't need to be. They just don't need to be. They need to be their own standalone things and let them be what they are. But I hope Hasbro is going to learn that lesson, even though at the end of Transformers Rise of the Beast, we did get a stinger hinting at G.I. Joe coming, or G.I. Joe maybe being part of the next Transformers movie. So it'll be interesting to see. But with Bay on Transformers, I feel like he's done his time. I think I still want to see more different creative people with their eyes on it, especially people like a Travis Knight who have brought a new energy. And for my money, Bumblebee is probably the truest translation of Transformers cartoon to live action film that we've ever had.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. Now, folks, we also have the news, unfortunately some sad news this week, that two amazing actors have passed away, sadly. First up is an American actor who I got to know through Reservoir Dogs, obviously Kill Bill and many other films. He was usually playing a heavy bad guy, or at least somebody that was a bit on edge at times. That is, of course, the late, great Michael Madsen, brother, of course, of Virginia Madsen. Lacee, this is really sad news, isn't it?
Yeah. Actually, that night, as soon as I found out, I pulled out my Species 4K to watch Preston Lennox. Madsen is one that hits me like Robin Williams or Heath Ledger. Like, I adore him. I have books of his poetry. He's one that kind of really kind of tugs. That's rough. And it's 67, man. I mean, come on. Ooh, yeah, it was rough. So,
yeah, he's very young. Like Kyle, you got to say that he's been almost every good film in the 90s that, you know, was either a sci-fi, a thriller, or maybe a gangster film. He's in a lot of those too. What was your pick of his back in that time?
Well, you always got to have a special place for Reservoir Dogs, but I'm with Lacee. I love Mimic. Mimic is such a great, the original film, and he is so good in it. It's such a great cast overall, and I think it's a very underappreciated science fiction film. I think it's got a very good cult following. But the thing about Madsen is he was such a different type of actor. He was never one to look for the starring role. He loved working more with more talented cast in an ensemble period, because he loved learning and absorbing from all those different styles. And he was a very giving actor. If you talk to any actor who worked with him, it's like they loved working with him because of how he was on set and just acting off of him. And I think that he was really, in a way, he had a typecast, but I really do think he was a bit of a chameleon too, even though he got similar roles, but he changed things up just enough to where it was like he's not playing the same person over and over again.
Oh, well, look at Free Willy. I mean, he was the dad in Free Willy, in the Free Willy series. And he still had that brooding kind of thing going on, but like, you know, he also, you know, had a wife and a kid and all the fun things that goes along with, you know, having the tow truck and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, kind of had that really cool, just laid back working man kind of vibe to him. And also, like, he cleans up good. Like, he cleaned up good. I'm just saying, between Hellride and, yeah. Anyway.
So, Kev, obviously, one of your favourite Tarantino films is Kill Bill Volume 2. And, of course, he takes pretty much centre stage for the first half of that movie. What are your thoughts on Bud? Obviously, you know, it's a great role, but also I think, you know, it's kind of a swan song for him. It was looking not just as a bad character, but a gangster, in this case, or an assassin, if you like, because he's part of that squad, looking back on his life because he was down times.
Mute. Volume.
Oop.
You pulled a Lacee.
I was muted. I pulled a Lacee. You know, it's funny you say that about him because, of the Kill Bills, I love Kill Bill Volume 2 over Volume 1. And a lot of it has to do with Michael Madsen's performance in that. And that he's a guy who kind of knows his time's coming. And if he can get away with it, he will. And he's so good in that. And I was just looking at his IMDb, and he never stopped working. He would work, and he would do anything, you know. And he just had a certain look and a certain style. But I did want to give a shout-out to two movies that, to me, other than Reservoir Dogs, that really stand out for me. And that is the remake of The Getaway that he did.
Oh, yes.
Melanie Griffith.
Yeah. No, Alec Baldwin and Kim
Basinger, yeah.
And the main villain was James Woods, but James Woods sent his character, Michael Madsen, Rudy Travis, to find Alec and Kim. And it had some really good scenes with Jennifer Tilly in that one. But the other one, too, that I have on DVD that I liked was, if you know anything about California bank robberies, one of the most famous ones was the North Hollywood shootout with those two heavily armed and body armored guys that got in a shootout with police officers, and luckily no one was killed except for the robbers themselves. And he did a TV, I think it was a TV movie called 44 Minutes in North Hollywood Shootout.
Yes, 44.
He was one of the main police officers, and he was really good in that. It came out in 2003.
Awesome. Now, that's one of the actors that has passed. For Australian audiences out here, a soap actor who would go from being that and then on to, of course, American shores and worldwide. And that is, of course, the late, great Julie McMahon, who would obviously play Dr. Doom in the first iteration of the live-action Fantastic Four films. Now, obviously, he's a fantastic actor, one that we've always praised out here in Australia, and then went on to do those. I've got to say, I always enjoyed his Dr. Doom, but Kyle's already talked about this with us off air. You know, this is a hard point. He was a great actor to fill those roles.
Yeah, he was. His Dr. Doom for me is a little bit of a mixed bag. I don't. A lot of people really like it, and I just found this out from the last time we talked about it, Adam. Apparently, Robert Downey Jr. was kind of nervous about taking on the Dr. Doom role, and Julian McMahon reached out to him and gave him his blessing. Said, "You understand it already way more than I do." And that was the kind of actor Julian McMahon was. You don't hear anybody talk bad about him. But one thing I didn't talk about when we talked about it, because I know we talked a little bit about him when we did the Willow podcast, but I am a huge fan of the show Nip Tuck. I remember when that show came out, it pushed the boundaries in every way possible. But his performance in Nip Tuck as this kind of just egotistical, a little bit slimy, but trying to redeem himself, plastic surgeon, was so amazingly done. And some of the situations they put him in, he just was absolutely amazing in that show. And that and Dr. Doom are probably the two biggest things I will remember Julian McMahon.
Awesome. Lacee, are you a fan of Julian McMahon?
I adore him. He, for me, it's playing Alyssa Milano's boyfriend on 3 seasons of Charmed. He played Cole Turner, which I loved. And then, of course, I mean, he's been in several other things, but I have a thing for shark movies, like weird, like random shark movies. And he was in a shark movie called Bait. And if you haven't seen, I'm not going to say anything about it, but if you haven't seen it, it's worth the watch. Charmed. He had, a significant run over the course of 3 years. I think 40 something episodes. Like he was
a big part of that show.
Yeah, he was a big part of the show. So, Charmed is where I'm most remembering Julian McMahon. But I will say that I do own Nip Tuck. I just haven't watched it yet, so that might be my next big binge.
Awesome. Kevin, your thoughts on Julian McMahon?
Yeah, Nip Tuck is where I first saw him. I've never watched Charmed. I've meant to get into it, but I've heard a lot of good things about that. And then, of course, his run as Dr. Doom in Fantastic Four films, which I enjoy. What's funny, not funny, haha, but I was in Australia when he passed away, and he's a legend over there because he's from Australia. Mm-hmm. And I got the distinct pleasure of watching the Danny Minogue, yes, sister to Kylie Minogue's This Is It 1993 video, which showcases Mr. Julian McMahon jumping around the video. They're flirting, falling in love, and then they were married for about a year. They had a huge wedding in New York when he got a new job for a soap opera, and it is a very cute, poppy, catchy song. Check it out, Danny Minogue, This Is It, and you get to see a good old 90s fashion at its best, sported by Julian McMahon.
That's right. All right, folks, we're here to chat about today.
Danny Minogue looking very cute, by the way.
She does. Well, actually, a little bit of background on that for those that don't know. Danny Minogue is obviously the younger sister of Kylie, and they were part of something together called Young Talent Time in the 80s. And they all stemmed from that and then went on to, obviously, soap operas and stuff like that. Danny never really took off internationally, sadly, but she's still going strong in Australia to this day and still just as pretty.
Yep.
So there you go. All right, folks, we are here today, episode number 287, looking, of course, at the 1986 action-adventure comedy. It's a comedy, folks. That's right. Chuck Norris was stretching those acting chops, not just his martial arts chops. And that is along with, of course, Gossett Jr. and William Sampson in his final feature role as well, along with, of course, Flash Gordon's Melody Anderson. It's directed by J. Lee Thompson, which we're just about to talk about, written by Norman Aladjem, Robert Gosnell, and Jeffrey M. Rosenbaum. This is about Chuck Norris playing Max Donegan and an adventurer with Leo Porter, played by Gossett Jr., down on their luck, treasure hunters in this movie. It's just kind of Indiana Jones vibe, you could say, where they team up with Patricia Goodwin and a psychic with a map to the legendary Aztec treasure. They're guided and guarded by the sinister Firewalker. Their journey takes them through, of course, perilous trek through Central America. So it's one of those classic canon ideas. It's probably the same that you see in Electric Boogaloo, where they say, come up with a poster first, come up with the idea, let's see if we can film it. And they go and do that. Now, what's interesting about this is that they still have the two piles of different scripts that were going, one Chuck and the second Chuck, of course, Charles and Chuck. That is, of course, Charles Bronson, and of course, Chuck Norris. I got to tell you, it is an interesting idea just to get him to do something like this that's different. Now, before we start talking about it, I'm just going to give you a bit of a background on the director, because I don't think that's really brought out there a lot, because he's had a lot to do with, of course, this great sort of universe of canon films. But before that, he was a big deal. So he worked on some massive successes back in the day. J. Lee Thompson, Born in 1914, passed sadly in 2002. He's an English film director, screenwriter, and he's also a producer as well. He did Dressing Gown in 1957, Ice Cold in Alex in 58, Tiger Bay in 59, Northwest Frontier in 59, but the big one, and this is one everyone knows because somebody's grandson is now Spock, Guns of Navarone. That's right, Gregory Peck. His big action film, the big one that the SAS said, wait, they didn't do it. And, of course, in this one, we've got the idea that J. Lee Thompson made such a massive film there that he would go on to, in 62, the original Cape Fear with, guess who, Gregory Peck. McKenna's Gold in 69, The White Buffalo in 77, Happy Birthday to Me, 81. Now, here's the one that you all like, the, of course, 85 film, King Solomon's Mines. Can you believe? I mean, Lacey, you remember that one, don't you? This is one of those great ones.
Sorry, I didn't want to. I was on mute. He's got a nice variety of genres that I enjoy. So it's one of those things where, if you're in the mood for action, or if you're in the mood for maybe a fantastic journey, or like an adventure film. I mean, he's got a lot of different directional. I mean, he has a definite style, but he molds his style to the genre that he's in, which is interesting.
He really does. He does. Now, Kevin, this director is actually the director of Conquest of the Battle of the Apes and also Battle for the Planet of the Apes in the original series. Probably not the most successful of those ones, but Conquest was definitely an influence on Rise of the Planet of the Apes. What do you think of that?
I'm going to have to go with your judgment on that. I've only seen those films once. So when it comes to the Apes films, I'm not a huge, knowledge on those, but I do go back and watch, a few of them at a time. But I'm more impressed with his earlier work too. Like you mentioned, Cape Fear. Put Robert Mitchum as the bad guy in that, up next to the remake. And you tell me who's scarier. So yeah. And I remember watching Guns of Navarone all the time with my dad. And also I like it when directors have a muse and they have an actor, actress that they always like to work with. And Charles Bronson was like his buddy. He did like 5 or 6 films with him, a lot of canon. So yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, this guy is also I believe, a blueprint for some of those great action adventures on the TV movie circuit. What do you think he brings to those sorts of canon budgets, Kyle?
He is probably the director, I think, who has the most canon sensibility. He understood what he was working with canon. I think he had a lot of trust from the executives at Canon because he would fit into their budgets, and we all know how Canon was about their budgets.
Yeah, he always probably came in under budget all the time. That's why. When you work for Canon, you're like, oh yeah, I only have $300,000 to make a film. All right, let's make it work. So.
Honestly, where I think he goes down is I think he's kind of one of the founding fathers of the sensation of the 90s of the direct-to-video films. I really think he laid the foundation work for a lot of those type of films that we got in the 90s and the early 2000s, of those direct-to-video B kind of style films that a lot of people worked off the foundation he laid while he worked at Canon Films.
I think you got a good point there too. Now, this film came about for 2 main reasons. There was a movie called, of course, Romancing the Stone, which came out. Michael Douglas, obviously star, producer, and, he wanted to really get something different out there. It was a little bit like Indiana Jones, a little bit like other fare from the early days. But what's interesting about that too is Canon said, you know what, we can do it for cheaper. And, of course, from here, they also had Chuck Norris interested in doing something completely different. Now, with that, Louis Gossett then praised, of course, the dedication of Chuck Norris to actually take that and run with it. Now, the other thing was they didn't want to go to Africa or any other place that they could do was too far away, or even South America. Instead, they went to Mexico and began production in June 1986. Now, this movie got mixed to negative reviews on its most part, and critics were comparing it unfavorably to films that were well above its pay grade, put it that way. From here, it was light-hearted tone of course, blend of action, humor, entertaining, but also easygoing nature with a plot that was derivative of so many others. So it fell short of Norris's other ones. But I think what brings it here, and I want to get your take on this, Lacee, we knew he was trying something different, right? This was an idea to do something completely left of field. Yet he knew what his audiences wanted. And I think after this, with the advent of probably since Missing in Action and Delta Force, he really found his legs, didn't he?
You know what? Yeah, I think so. I think Norris is... when you watch someone who's so good at something for so long, nobody wants to be pigeonholed into one thing. And I think that branching out a little bit, because he had funny lines here and there throughout most of his other films. He had the occasional one-liner, the occasional quip here and there, and he had good timing. So I think that this is just the natural progression of that. And I think that he wanted to try something different. So why not? Lou Gossett Jr., I think he's the perfect straight man to the, I guess he's not really straight. I don't know. They have the perfect kind of odd couple thing going on. They're kind of bickering like a married couple. And that's the best thing about a buddy comedy. This is basically Indiana Jones meets Lethal Weapon, with the banter, but also the swashbuckling and the cool tan outfits when they go digging in the jungle. And the lovely lady, they find a nice, lovely lady, and they find a couple of bad guys, and but it's fun. It's an adventure, and it's lighthearted, which is not something that a lot of his earlier works were. A lot of his earlier works were revenge or protection of someone who is, in danger, that kind of thing. And I think this is kind of, it's just a lighter fare, which I enjoy.
It is. And I think what's interesting about this film is that they tried to not only do that, they tried to, I think, go even more mainstream than their other canon films. So you think about it, this is a pathway leading towards them doing something like Masters of the Universe, Kevin, don't you think?
Yeah, it's Masters of the Universe is fun. It's not too serious, and that's one of the things that makes Firewalker stand out. Obviously, yes, the comparisons to Indiana Jones and Romancing the Stone, but that was done on purpose. The producers were like, "We want Indiana Jones and Romancing the Stone, go!" So, they're not gonna hide that fact. They're famous for, trying to rip off really successful films and kind of doing ones in their own budget with a little bit different taste to it. And also, too, you got like one of your best action stars of the '80s. Kind of lightening things up a little bit. And also, he sucks at shooting. Who sucks? Chuck Norris sucks at shooting. Yes, he does in this film, and it's funny, but you also got a great trio, with a great cast as well to kind of round out this adventure as well. And I thought Jay Lee did a good job of getting this cast together. And I liked was it Melody Anderson, the lead in this? She's absolutely charming in this. She's cute. But she leads. She's kind of like the leader in a way of this. If you think about it, she's taking these two treasure hunters and leading them, and showing her knowledge and being strong herself. And I like that with this. And it really hit a certain adventure chord that we yearned for if we couldn't keep watching Indiana Jones all the time. We did, even though we loved Indiana Jones, we owned it on VHS. But we wanted other style adventures. We wanted this adventure back. We wanted the treasure seeking back, with a good adventure romp around the world.
Oh, exactly. Now, Kyle, I've got to ask you, because this man is in the movie, and I want to give you another movie reference from somewhere else to sort of spark this conversation. What's got Billy so spooked?
Our friend Sonny Landham. The only man who needed a bodyguard in Hollywood to actually protect people from Sonny Landham, not the opposite, the other way around. Sonny Landham, if you have watched any documentaries about Predator, you know how crazy Sonny was, and yet he was also a United States congressman or senator. I can't remember which he was, which is scary in its own right. So yeah, he's great as a villain in this, but we need to talk about Firewalker because what's so interesting about Firewalker is this. There is a long history of hardcore action stars making the turn to try to do something more comedic. You name me the action star, they've done at least one kind of at least semi-comedic role. And for Chuck Norris, it was Firewalker at the time, and he wanted to do something different. And I think it's one of the reasons why Firewalker really didn't work that well is because for a lot of people in the box office at the time, is because people wanted action Chuck. That's what they expected. Then you have Melanie Anderson, who is amazing in this, and I think her and Chuck have actually great chemistry. And then the fact there's the old, I think one of the children's shows, one of these things is not like the other. You have Academy Award winner Lou Gossett Jr. doing a canon film movie with Chuck Norris. Now, luckily, Lou Gossett Jr. is a phenomenal human being, a phenomenal actor. He had a great time working with Chuck. It was all wonderful. But when you think about this, and this is something even with the history of canon films, the actors that they got for some of their movies, you just sit and go, with their budgets and everything with their history, how did they make this happen? What voodoo doll, what blackmail did they have to make this happen? And I think that's one of the reasons why I think Firewalker has kind of ended up staying this test of time is because the three of them play off each other so well in this film. And then you add in characters like John Rhys Davies, you add in Sonny Landham. And yes, I will be the first to say I watched this movie recently because we all started covering it on our Couch Potato Theater perspective. There are things about this movie that are very dated. Let's be honest here. This is so much 80s movie. It's insane. But the chemistry between them is what makes it fun. Yes, the story kind of skips around in places, and it's like, okay, there's some logic leaps you've got to take, but what's fun about it is seeing Chuck Norris trying to do something different, and he's being serious about trying to do something different. And now we laugh and look back at this where he's trying to do a little bit of more of a comedic, lighthearted role in this, and yet for a whole generation now, all they know is Chuck Norris memes. Chuck Norris is this badass, or Chuck Norris from Dodgeball. Thank you, Chuck Norris.
Now, folks, we obviously have done another show on this, so I'm going to try and do some different material here. We're not going to do the plot. We did that in the other one. If you've watched the movie, you know what that is. But we're going to talk about some of the other cast members in this. Now, at the start of the film, we had Richard Lee Sung, who basically is putting our two little heroes in hot water, put it that way. And he's an actor you've probably seen in a lot of stuff over the years. He's known for Armed Response, which was with, of course, Mr. Carradine. Also, Kung Fu. He was the fourth master in the Madam's Garden, the TV series. In Inspector Gadget with a certain Mr. Broderick. And he was in another 48 Hours. Now, his list of credits completely is much larger than that. And he's also in True Duty. He was a regular on that show as well. Now, there's some others here which are going to surprise you because even when I looked at it first, I didn't think I knew who these actors were, but then they surprised me. Who remembers a guy by the name of Ian Abercrombie? Now, if you're a Star Wars fan, you will, because he was Palpatine a number of times here too. Now, the other one, we'll say his name, is, of course, Will Sampson. Now, Will Sampson is somebody who's always, I personally think, fantastic in any role he was in over the years. But what a solid actor. Now, obviously, he was around until 87, so 1933 to 87. His big break, of course, it was in One Who Came Together. Was this meeting of ways between Josie Wales and, of course, that character was just absolutely beautifully done and beautifully shot by, of course, Eastwood. I think it's one of the classics of the genre when it comes out there too. Some fantastic stuff. So we'll start with Lacee. What do you think of these amazing actors?
Yeah, I think that when it comes to canon films, they're really good at finding character actors that have really solid backgrounds, like really solid CVs to start with. Both of the actors that you just listed. I mean, if you look back at their IMDb's, they're chameleons. They have all different. I mean, every genre across the board. From sci-fi to, just everything. And I think that that's something that canon was really good at, was picking cast that was maybe, because with character actors you get a deal, right? I mean, you do. They're less expensive. And that's what canon was really good at, was finding the more dollar for your money. The more value for their dollar. So I think that they really picked fantastic secondary characters to make sure that their lineups were full of just interesting background and everything else. And I think that Reggie Lee as well. Reggie Lee, is it Reggie Lee? Am I saying the name wrong? Hold on. Richard Lee Sung.
Richard Lee Sung.
Yeah.
Richard Lee Sung. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Lee Sung, you look at
he played the general.
Yeah. And so, I mean, just all these fantastic character actors where you know, it's one of those things, you watch it and you're like, oh, wait, I know that guy from, and I think that they were really good at picking the right guy from, for all their roles. I think that a big portion of Canon's success was their casting.
100%. The other thing is too, Kevin, one of the roles in this played by Robert Wall, which is Chuck Norris's training partner, but also a man that got shit kicked out of him by Bruce Lee a number of times. And of course, Revenge of the Dragon? And it was also, I do believe he was in, if I remember right, it wasn't Fist of Fury, it was the other, the one that he did in Rome, in the Colosseum, but he got the crap kicked out of him by Bruce Lee in that one too, and in Enter the Dragon. Now, Bob Wall was literally the business partner of Chuck Norris, and it's great to bring his own martial artists into these movies too.
Yeah, I mean, Game of Death, Enter the Dragon, The Way of the Dragon. He has a long list. He's got that face too, that character actor face. Yeah, and by the way, I just want to go back to Will Sampson, who played Tall Eagle, legendary Asian Indian actor, and I think this was his last role as well. Real quick, I just feel like I had to mention too that Sonny Landham's character El Coyote, his eye patch kept switching eyes. Do you think they were afraid to tell him on set that it was wrong, and he kept doing that? Just thinking. So yeah,
I have thoughts on that. I think that things happened with the film where they needed to fix the eye lines, so they just flipped the film. I think that's an editing thing. I don't think that they messed up. Well, maybe they did. Who knows? But I feel like they probably flipped the film for some editing.
I'm going to go with my story because it's funnier.
Now,
don't tell Sonny.
wait. No, Sonny is crazy enough. He might have been flipping it on his own.
Yeah.
Probably. So, Kyle, John Rhys Davies obviously is a staple of Cannon films as well. It being in the King Solomon's Mines, and I do believe, bringing him into this was obviously because he did another film, didn't he?
Yeah, it's basically a rule. If you have a film like this, John Rhys Davies has to be in it at some point. I mean, it's just law at this point. If you go to director prison if you don't cast him in something like this. But he brought that cliche. He brought that certain cash to this film to make this film feel a little bit more like that adventure type film. Even though he wasn't in it for that long, he elevated it. And I think that was important for what they were trying to do with this film. And again, this is where Cannon Films probably didn't pay him that much. He probably came in film for a day, maybe two at most, and he was out again. But putting him in this kind of film just signifies that okay, yes, this is that type of film for sure. It's got the stamp of approval here. You get to tie to Indiana Jones. Oh, there's a familiar face. So yeah, just brilliant casting, and I mean, you can never go wrong when you bring in John Rhys Davies. I mean, it's just always a good thing.
100%. Now, folks, we've all seen the film. We've all had a feel of what this is about. What Cannon were trying to do. Did they achieve it? Did they not? I mean, that's one of the things we're going to ask now as we start to wrap up. First of all, we'll start with Lacee. This is a film that you have brought to all of us as something to enjoy, something to bring back. And now, I will say to the folks at home, Umbrella Entertainment is the one that I've currently got hot in my hands right now. And it might be the same one that you got. You got Umbrella Entertainment copy?
Maybe no, this one's actually Olive Films. I don't know if Olive is the maybe they're kind of hand in hand, or maybe they're just separate distribution for the U.S. But this is Olive Films release. This little teeny tiny little olive, little bumblebee, and it's
nice.
Number OF976.
Nice. And Kevin, you've got multiple editions there.
I have the one that Lacee has. I have the olive edition. This is my newest acquisition because this is the region A encoded here. And I have the region B that you have because I bought this in Australia last year when I was going through, I believe it was either JB or it was the DVD Play place that I like to visit with all the cool physical media, new and used. And I knew I wanted to see this film. And then when Kyle brought to my attention about, hey, we need to celebrate canon films for Couch Potato Theater, Firewalker was definitely out there, and Lacee brought it to the table. And so I have both copies here.
Fantastic. All right, folks, so we're going to go one by one to give our rating out of 5, which is the Hallenbach scale. Hallenbach scale is, of course, from The Last Boy Scout. It is what, of course, Joe Hallenbach, played by Bruce Willis, did on his fingers. You know, he said, how was it? It was out of 5, out of the fingers. So let's start up in the corner. Kevin, how do you rate this film and your favorite scene, please?
It's my favorite scene. I really enjoy the train scene when they're dressed up as clergy. It's just so much fun. I think it's great, and it was a clever way to get to where they needed to go. It was just really, really fun. I rated this film. I think I rated it. I do Letterbox, and I rated it 3 out of 5, which is above average. And it's just fun. It's great. And I feel like it hits a certain nostalgia with us, not only as canon fans, but just adventure fans. And I think this movie is a little underrated when it comes to that. And especially the budget that it was done. What makes up for it is the cast that they have in this. So, yeah, I give it a 3 out of 5.
Awesome. Now, of course, Lacee, this is a movie that you definitely like. I want to hear what your favorite scene is, why it's powerful, and what you give it on the Hallenbach.
Okay, I think my favorite scene is going to be either the opening with them like strung out in the in the desert, or the ending where the very last thing you see is the general saying, we meet again.
We meet again.
I really expected it to have a sequel to this. Like, I thought that they could have gone and done 5 more. I really would have watched 5 more. My rating scale is different than most. When I say 4.5 out of 5, that is because this is one that I will watch more often. It's not about being a good movie or a bad movie or cinema quality or Oscar, bait, that kind of thing. My scale is entirely based on how often I'm going to watch this movie. Right. So 4.5 out of 5. Anytime I see this, I'm going to watch it. If it's on the TV, or if I'm walking past and I'm like just looking for something to have on in the background, whatever, this is one of those ones I'm going to be like, oh yeah, let's watch that one. Movies like, I don't know, The Godfather rank a 1 because I just won't watch that. They're just dramatic and they're, not really my style. So while fantastic, well-made films, Oscars and all that kind of stuff, just not something I'm going to rewatch over and over again. So I'm going to give this a solid 4.5. And I honestly can't remember what the third question you asked was. You said my favorite film and something else.
Favorite scene.
Favorite scene. Yeah.
Was the opening and the closing. But I guess that's it then. Never mind.
Fantastic. Now, Kyle, same again. What is your favorite scene, and how do you rate this on, of course, Bruce Willis's scale?
First of all, favorite scene is the opening. I mean, just the fact alone that Chuck Norris crushes a solid glass bottle of Perrier without even cutting his hand because he's Chuck Norris. But it's really that opening scene sets the tone for the whole movie, and I think it's great. As far as the rating scale for this, I kind of put it on a bit of a curve because, again, you're looking at a canon film from the 80s. You know what you're getting with it. I agree with Kevin. For me, this is a 3 out of 5. This is a rewatchable film. It's fun. But sometimes you're just like, okay, yeah, I'm got to tune out just a little bit. Excuse me. Sneeze snuck in there.
Bless you.
So 3 out of 5. Well, folks, I'm going to take, of course, all of that into consideration. This film is one of the more interesting, it's something that, again, here at Lethal Mullet, we look for something different. We look at something that, will give us something to look back on, come back to, something that maybe not what the star originally intended it to be. This is a cult film. People come back to it for Louis Gossett Jr. trying something completely different himself, a low-budget film in comparison to what he'd been doing at the time. The action delivers, the comedy, unintentional in some spots, is actually quite good. This film here on the Lethal Mullet Podcast gets a whopping 4 stars out of 5. I think it's fantastic. I think it's well worth somebody investing in. And I will give a shout-out to our company out here in Australia, the amazing Umbrella Entertainment. You can find them it's Twitter on here, but we know it's X now, at Umbrella Ent. And, of course, umbrellaent.com.au. Go and get yourself a copy of this DVD, Blu-ray. I don't know if they've got 4K, but definitely get a copy of a slice completely different of what we saw Chuck Norris back in the day do. Because you know what, folks? It's bloody well worth it, I can tell you. So there you go. But before we go, I want to catch a little bit of what is coming up, of course, for everybody here on the show. We'll start with, of course, Lacee. What have you got planned for shows coming up? What are you jumping on? Couch Potato Theaters, whatever it is.
Shows coming up. You know what? I don't know. We'll see. We have Time Warp July 1990 coming up. 3 of us are doing that. I'm assuming there's going to be something on Superman. I'm putting my hat in the ring right now for that. If y'all want to talk about Superman, I'm in.
Yep.
I want to talk Fantastic Four whenever that happens. And I think next week is the Ironheart, the series, the Disney Plus series for Ironheart. I think I'm on all of those. If not, I would like to be on all of those.
I think we
can. Awesome. All right, Kevin, what have you got upcoming?
Well, we just wanted to, remind the listeners too that this is part of a crossover event here because we have recorded our own Couch Potato Theater for Firewalker. So make sure you guys check that out. That will be dropping soon. We also, as Lacey says, we have Time Warp 1990 this entire year. We're celebrating the entire year of 1990. We'll have July's going to be a big month for that actually because we're going to be talking about the movies. Separately in its own special episode because we're going to talk about the television. A lot of summer television was coming out in 1990. Things were starting to change. It wasn't just new fall TV. A lot of summer stuff, including the music and pop culture we're going to talk about. And so make sure you check that out. And also we have coming up, we have Cobra 1986 joining, of course, the canon discussion group for Couch Potato Theater. And I am holding up the brand new Arrow release 4K of Cobra that we're also going to be touching on a little bit as well. So look for that.
Awesome. Kyle, what you got upcoming that we can hear apart from Willow?
Oh, there's so much going on around the Fandom Podcast Network. Like I said, I just recorded Willow on the last Lethal Mullet. We've got this crossover going on with you for Firewalker. You're going to be doing some Mullet Superman. Of course, we are going to be covering Superman in a very interesting way on the Fandom Podcast Network. DC might be invading our MCU podcast. We're trying to figure that out right now. We've got it's a huge month. We have Fantastic Four, Jurassic. We have a new Jurassic film out. There's a lot of stuff coming out on TV and streaming that are hitting. So we'll have some culture clashes for that as well. We've got Time Warp. We're going to have a lot of fun things. And, I think, Kevin, if I'm not mistaken, we might even see the return of Blood of Kings maybe sometime in July because something very immortal came out recently on Netflix.
Yeah, we're going to be looking at covering the Old Guard 2 with Charlize Theron, the immortal herself and her immortal group of do-gooders. So, yeah, make sure you keep an eye out for that.
Awesome, folks. Thank you so much for joining us here. To all my co-hosts coming on here and experiencing, again, some amazing fresh feelings for this film from 1986. It's been a long time since it was released, but there's so much joy to be had from it. For you out there, stay tuned. We've got, of course, some amazing stuff coming. We've got Mullet Star dropping today. That should be out like literally this afternoon. Check it out. That's the next episode looking at The Lost Warrior. And, of course, a bit of a Western episode. So
sorry I missed that one. I really wanted to do that one. One of my favorite episodes.
I tell you what, folks, the next one will be even better because we actually will be going to the mythic parts of that universe too, where we look at an episode looking at the actual past of Battlestar as well. And with that, we've got the news that it's on Prime. That's right. The 1978 series in HD is on Prime. So get out there. It's a good time to catch up with that so you can catch up where we are on the podcast. But that'll be out. We've got Lethal Hammer coming with Scott Bowman. Looking at, of course, the Dark Angels chapter of Space Marines. Good time to get into that too, Coos. Henry Cavill has his Eisenhorn TV show coming. It is, let's just say, not confirmed yet, but we have very good sources that say it is Eisenhorn looking the Inquisition in the Warhammer 40k universe. We've got even more, of course, Lethal Mullet on the way. All here, of course, on the Fandom Podcast Network. Catch us at the Lethal Mullet on all socials and fpn.poppy.com. Catch you next time.